It's Halloween, or at least it should be if I got this video out on time. It's the time to acknowledge the spooky aspects of our world, like zombies, ghosts, and pumpkins, because pumpkins are really scary for some reason. On this day last year, I talked about an episode of Adventure Time that legitimately freaked me out when I first saw it. But today, we're going to discuss the finale of a show that mixes paranormal strangeness with the style of The Simpsons. Gravity Falls. This Disney XD series follows twins Dipper and Mable Pines, who spend their summer with their great uncle Stan at his tourist trap, the Mystery Shack. The twins soon discover that Stan's hometown of Gravity Falls is filled to the brim with strange anomalies, and they attempt to unravel the secrets that it hides within. I love Gravity Falls. It is definitely one of my favorite cartoons, and I'm surprised that it took this long for me to cover it. Not only does it offer interesting and layered characters, superb animation, and is extremely hilarious, but it presented a complex mystery that kept viewers guessing throughout its entire 40-episode run. To me, the mystery aspect was the cherry on top of an already fantastic sundae. And even though I was never too into uncovering all the secrets and ciphers, everything else was so solid that I was hooked from the beginning to the very end. Speaking of the end, that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, most cartoons don't get a proper ending due to unexpected cancellations and other instances of network stupidity. And even when they do get a chance to tie up loose ends, they don't tend to be very noteworthy, at least from my experience. Gravity Falls ended its run this February with a 3-part series finale entitled Weirdmageddon. It was received very well by fans, and I wanted to take a look at it for months. And with today being one filled with terror, I thought it would be the perfect time. I'll be looking at each part of this finale individually, including Dipper and Mable versus the future, since it helps set the stage for the other episodes. There will be spoilers, and I highly recommend you watch the whole series before watching this video. It's a fantastic series anyway, so I'm just doing you a favor. Without further ado,
welcome one and all to Weirdmageddon!
The future is coming for us all, dudes.
The future!
The future!
The future!
This is a fantastic episode and a great way to set the tone for what's to come. It tricks the viewer by starting with the characters goofing around and getting excited for the future before reaching for your heart and beginning to smash it. I can relate to Mabel's sadness over summer coming to an end, and it's an interesting change to see a character that is always very happy and cheerful break down and get so desperate. Because we get to see Mabel's emotional journey, it's understandable why she would follow the Bill's scheme. I don't see the ending of the episode as Mabel being stupid enough to be tricked. I see it as the only opportunity of hope that she has for her future. Bill's plan also follows up on the ending of the last Mabelcorn, but I like how he just pops up in this episode. We don't even get a foreshadowing silhouette like in Sock Opera. The show has enough faith in its audience that they can recognize that Blendon is being possessed by Bill, and it helps make the reveal all the more satisfying. Mabel's misunderstanding with Dipper is well done too. We see that Dipper was trying to care for her sister, it's just that Ford's offer got the best of him.
There's also Mabel. She'll be all alone in California.
Mabel will be fine on her own.
This aspect of the episode could have been cliché and easily resolved, but it sets up a huge conflict in a believable way. On top of the emotional center, there's also a great adventure with Dipper and Ford as they explore an alien spacecraft and fight its security system. I really like how this show handled aliens. It acknowledges that extraterrestrials exist, but it doesn't dawn on this fact and keeps its focus on delivering an action-packed plotline. Plus, I think it's actually creepier and more visually interesting to be exploring an old abandoned ship rather than a working one. The atmosphere is very strong and there's always a sense of peril, which is heightened with the action sequence involving the security system. It's a pretty intense scene, and for a minute I almost believed that Ford wasn't going to make it out alive. And after everything Dipper and Ford go through to seal the tear in the universe, they fail, and the episode ends with a moment where they think,
Well, we're boned.
Dipper and Mable vs. the Future is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. The action and emotion is at its best, especially with the punch to the gut you receive during the ending. I will say that the comedy is definitely the weakest aspect of this episode compared to the rest of the series, but I think it makes up for it with things like the gradual tonal shift into a hopeless apocalypse that will leave you in shock. Plus, there were still a lot of things that I got a good laugh out of.
Why aren't they singing about following their dreams? TV taught me that high school is like some sort of musical.
This could have been a simple setup for the finale, but it ended up greatly surpassing my expectations.
Look, things aren't gonna stay frozen this way. It's part of growing up. Things change. Summer ends.
This party never stops! Time is dead and meaning has no meaning! Existence is upside down and I reign supreme!
Out of all the episodes discussed in this video, Weirdmageddon Part 1 is the most focused. That doesn't mean that it's the best. It just puts all of its effort into being one thing, and that thing is a stealthy and action-packed romp through the horrific world that Bill has molded the town into. It's a pretty straightforward plot, mostly told from Dipper's perspective, as we see him and Ford fail to defeat Bill and then team up with Wendy to stop Gideon and reach the bubble that Mable is captured in. There's a real sense of danger whenever the characters are sneaking around the town, but it's contrasted with some very odd situations and monsters that the characters encounter.
Hey you! Hey, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about going inside my mouth. I think you want to get in here. Hey you! Hey, I'm talking to you, man! You don't have to make a big deal out of this.
The almost constant clash of tones between silly and incredibly dark humor is a little off-putting at first, but if you've watched the other episodes with Bill's cipher, then you probably won't find a problem with it. I love the creativity that went into the designs of Bill's henchmen. They strike a good balance of being creepy and silly at the same time. Same goes for the weirdness bubbles. That sequence is hands down the best part of the episode. A lot of secondary characters get time to shine here. Dipper gives some good life advice that he learned to Gideon, which gives him a nice character arc. Seuss being the handyman of the apocalypse was pretty funny, and Wendy acts as a good companion to Dipper for most of the episode. But on the subject of Wendy, I've always gotten the feeling that she's a little too powerful with little weakness. In these final episodes, we see her do some crazy things, and her only shortcoming is seen when she's tricked by the charms of Mabel's bubble, which happens to all of the characters, even Seuss. I like Wendy, I really do. I just feel like the writers made her a bit of a Mary Sue. Due to the straightforward manner of the episode, there isn't much more that I can say about Weirdmageddon Part 1. The linearity is a strength but also a weakness, as it didn't really surprise me emotionally or make me think. It was just a funny and intense ride, but I was really happy to be on it.
Weather today calls for black clouds, blood rain, and frequent showers of eyeball bats turning people into stone. I'm Chandra Jimenez, and I ate a rat for dinner.
Welcome to Mable Land.
Escape from Reality is an extended detour from the dangerous and loony apocalypse to the fun and bouncy world of Mable Pines. It's an interesting change of pace, but I feel like it's the weakest out of these 4 episodes. It uses a Lotus Eater machine type plotline as a basis to tell its story, and it results in a lot of predictable moments with the characters not wanting to leave the bubble. Luckily, the bubble itself is filled to the brim with lots of great gags, callbacks, tons of creativity, color, and the best one-off character in the series, Dippy Fresh.
I like skateboarding, supporting my sister, and punctuating every sentence with a high five. Huh?
It's an interesting place to set an episode, but I couldn't help but want to go back to the apocalypse. We get a glimpse of the wasteland through Bill and the bubble showing off its true colors towards the end, but I feel like the episode would have been better off if it split its runtime between the 2 locations. I have some issues with the ending, which resolves the conflict between Dipper and Mable, set up in Damvatif. Dipper makes up with his sister when he says that he's going to reject Ford's apprenticeship and continue to live with her in California. I understand that Gravity Falls was trying to show how important the bond between the twins is, and trying to push a message of not trying to grow up too fast. But the episode forces Dipper to give up his dream. The courtroom scene edges him to act only for his sister. This is not a lesson that Dipper needs to be told, since he was just a little caught up in the moment when he took Ford's offer. But now he has to be with his sister at all times and never be independent from her. I know that later Mabel says this,
But if you want to take Ford's apprenticeship, I won't get in your way.
but after everything that Dipper went through to save her, I doubt that he'd ever leave her side for years. Mabel kinda put Dipper into this situation where he had to agree with her, which kinda makes her just as in the wrong as her brother was. The moral shouldn't be to not grow up too fast. It should have been to think about yourself and others equally, and it could have been solved with the twins reaching a compromise about what they do in their futures. The ending alone almost sours the entire episode for me. I may just be misinterpreting it, but the episode still wasn't all that great to begin with. It's not bad. Heck, the show has done worse episodes overall. But after what came just before it, and the fact that this is the series' penultimate episode, I really expected more. But instead, Escape from Reality ended up being an escape from high quality. Which is also what that joke just did to this entire video.
Listen to yourself. This is crazy. I'm sorry about our fight, and I'm sorry things aren't great right now, but that doesn't mean you can just stay in here forever.
Hey, take a chill pill. Those grow on trees here.
You stay out of this, Dippy Fresh! And we just might be able to rescue Ford, learn Bill's weakness, and save Gravity Falls!
And here we are, the final episode of Gravity Falls. The other 3 episodes focused on telling an interesting story without answering many of the questions that were left in the viewers' minds. This final episode tries to wrap up as many loose ends as it has time for, and while it doesn't give all the answers, I still feel that it creates a satisfying conclusion. The first part of this double-length finale has most of the main, supporting, and monster characters come together to transform the Mystery Shack into a giant robot to stall Bill and rescue Ford. The fight and music that accompany it are pretty great, but after Ford is rescued, I think that's when we get the most interesting part of the episode. After appearing in nearly every episode of the series, the Zodiac scene at the end of the title sequence finally makes an appearance. It turns out to be a prophecy to defeat Bill that involves the show's most important characters. But because of the unresolved conflict between Stan and Ford, the Zodiac doesn't work and all of the characters need to find another way to defeat Bill. It was a pretty risky move to basically introduce a new plot element that ends up being pointless in the grand scheme of things. But because the Zodiac was put in a place where you had to have noticed it or looked into it at some point, this scene works. It even helps make the destruction of Bill, through the erasing of Stan's mind, all the more satisfying. I was honestly a little shocked at this resolution at first, and it would have been a really tragic moment if the show ended with Stan's memory being gone forever. But because this is a Disney show, Stan's memory gradually came back to him. I know that it would be too dark for the show to end on such a somber note, but it still feels very underwhelming for Stan's memory to just pop back into existence with Bill conveniently nowhere in sight. The rest of the episode spends its time resolving character arcs like Gideon's, and also giving us glimpses of the futures of all of the characters that reveal the perfect amount about each of their futures. I didn't like how Pacifica's ending was handled in this episode. After the Gulf War and Northwest Mansion mystery, it seemed like she was sort of changing for the better. But this episode almost brings her back to her Season 1 self, and gives her family an undeserved, although funny, ending. There are also a lot of small lapses in logic in this episode specifically that I can forgive, but are still noticeable. Like, how did Chandra Jimenez get closer to Bill's base than Ford? Or why is the Mystery Shack the only thing in town that isn't restored after Bill is defeated? One big forgotten plot point that many bring up is how Mabel is never called out for starting the Weirdmageddon. The characters don't even find out that she was the one who started it.
Mabel, the rift must have cracked inside her backpack.
It definitely would have created more friction between the characters if this was revealed, and combined with what she did in the bubble, I think that Mabel really should have been punished or something. But with everything this episode has to accomplish, I can kinda see why this wasn't covered. It should have at least gotten a mention, but I get why it wasn't present here. The last 5 minutes of this episode are some of the finest moments of the series. All of the characters give each other a long but deserved goodbye, and there's a great speech by Dipper that sums up the series really well. It's a little drawn out, but since this is the last time the audience will ever see these characters again on screen, the goodbye is deserved.
Ready to head into the unknown?
Nope. Let's do it.
And that's Weirdmageddon. This is by far the most ambitious thing that Gravity Falls has ever done, and it ended the series off on a high note. The characters' humor and action had some of their best moments here, and the animation was spectacular all throughout. But for all the praise I give it, this set of episodes wasn't perfect. Huge problems like Dipper and Mabel's fight and the erasing of Stan's mind were resolved fairly poorly, and there were a lot of small, but still important mysteries that were left unsolved. But for this being the last time we're ever going to see these characters in action, Weirdmageddon was the finale that the show deserved, and I give it a score of 8.5 out of 10. If I had to rank these episodes from best to worst, my ranking would go Dipper and Mable vs. the Future, Part 1 and Take Back the Falls, which are basically on the same level in my opinion, and finally Escape from Reality. I really enjoyed these episodes. It's just too bad that we won't see anything else from this fantastic show ever again. Or will we? Journal number 3 is an official Gravity Falls book that released in July that is canon with the series and written by members of the show's crew. It ties together the random journal pages seen in the show with new stories that contain tons of new insight into the characters in the world, great drawings, and lots of secrets. I would have loved for this to be worked into the actual show, or even a separate miniseries, but I'm very glad that all of this wasn't left on the cutting room floor. Plus, this book captures the style of the show perfectly, and it feels like you're reading through a couple new episodes of the show. I won't go into the book since it contains 288 pages worth of content, but if you're a fan of the show that has less than $20 to spare, pick it up. It's been so well received that there's even a special blacklight version of the book coming soon. It's clear that even though Gravity Falls is over, it will still live on through its fans, creators, and merchandise. And since the show already got the run and ending the creator wanted, I couldn't think of a better future for this show. Gravity Falls, we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when. But I know we'll meet again some sunny day. I'm Nintendo, and this Halloween, remember one thing.
Reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Buy gold, buy